I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
And I'm back in this motherfucker.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss the 7th episode of X-Men 97, episode titled Bright Eyes. And let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. Brittany, what are your overall thoughts of this episode?
It had some surprises. Let me tell you, I was not expecting a cameo, a big cameo in this episode in particular. I mean, I know there's things where we've seen characters from, other, Marvel products that have, crossed over or whatever. But to actually see it happen was like, whoa, like that was really cool. Rogue went rogue. But
she did. Good job. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was intense. And overall, definitely a better episode for me over the previous episode. The previous episode, yes, there was a lot to it. I know all these episodes are going to bridge together for what will be the 3-part finale, which will happen at time of recording tomorrow. So that's exciting. But this episode overall was a lot better. I am very concerned about what's happening with a couple of these characters. So yeah, Frank, your thoughts on this episode?
I thought it was great. All the episodes have been wonderful. Again, just more character development, great storytelling, fast paced, but they showcased another villain that's going to be a big problem for the X-Men, Bastion. I forget it's a cartoon sometimes. It's becoming so real, so dark, and they're doing a great job of really showcasing the powers of these villains, and people are dying left and right. Like this didn't happen in the OG series. Like people are getting the left hook out of the show, and it's like really doing like a Game of Thrones finality to the series. Rogue going rogue. I love that. I love the exception of Nightcrawler in this series as well as being like he's an ordained minister, but being like the voice of reason, in implementing him into the series as well. And I feel like the X-Men right now, with everything that's going on, with all this darkness, they need a voice of reason. And having Nightcrawler there as an OG advisor and being there for the team, I think is playing a great role. But this episode's been great. I love it. I mean, I love every single episode so far, and I think that they really added the pieces to the bigger puzzle for the finale.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And this was like, for me, this was the follow-up I was looking forward to after episode 5, and they gave it to us in episode 7. So I understand that they're going to give a little bit of space, a little bit of breathing room, but yeah, this is a great follow-up from the 5th episode. And Frank, you mentioned it about how there's a new big bad. You're right. Mr. Sinister, in fact, is not the overall villain for this story. Another guy named Bastion. So let's start from the end, Frank, and can you tell us who Bastion is and what is OZT?
Yeah, so OZT is Operation Zero Tolerance. It was a comic book issue back in the mid '90s, and it pretty much followed the Days of Future Past storyline with Bastion, who's essentially a cyborg. He's a humanoid who has the imagination of Nimrod, who's another Prime Sentinel from the future, and Massimo, who was an upgraded Sentinel in the present. And he comes from the future back to present day to try to pretty much wipe out mutant kind and wipe out humankind as well, but make all the humans pretty much Prime Sentinels. So he wants to make a bunch of cyborgs like him and have absolute rule. And he is a big time Forge adversary, and he's a big time Cable adversary in the comics. So that's why you see Cable these last couple episodes, because he's trying to change what happens, because whatever happened in the present day affected Cable in the future. So Cable's trying to get back to present day to stop the chain reaction of a lost future for mutant and humankind. Jay, you muted, bro.
I did it again. Wow. I did it again. No, what I was saying is Bastion, he wasn't even introduced in the comics until 96. So I did like the reference he makes where he mentioned, he was talking to Sinister, and he said, like he's like, "Sinister, you're one of many villains that's been failing to stop the X-Men since '92," referencing the beginning of the OG series. So I enjoyed that. Brittany, so we found out that Bastion is voiced by Theo James, who I know from the White Lotus season 2. He's also on a show called The Gentleman, which is a Netflix series. He's on various other things. What did you think about the voice acting? And what did you think about Bastion overall from what little we saw from him in this episode?
I low key actually forgot that Theo James was going to be in this series. I mean, we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, and I know him from the Divergent movies, which I absolutely loved him in. He is naturally English, um, so to kind of get that was like really nice. I don't know anything about Bastion, like Bastion. What's I'm trying to like make his name all like fancy and shit. I don't know anything about him whatsoever. So to see him and just kind of like outright take out oh god, what's his name? Dude, the one that created not created Sentios, but
Brass
Garrick.
or Gyrick.
Gyrick, yeah, Gyrick. And just like not think twice of it, no hesitation whatsoever. Gyrick is all like, "Oh yeah, they almost got us." He's like, "Yeah, but you're the one who really like kind of fucked up, so I'm gonna have to take you out here right now," and just walk away. And um, I think the big surprise, obviously, was that he's the one that has hold of Magneto.
Yeah.
Whoa, guys, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And how he's like taunting him. And it's just like this dude, like before hearing Frank and his explanation of who this guy is, sounds psychotic. Okay. Like he just sounds psychotic, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, now I'm again concerned, very concerned about these characters now, especially in this guy's hands. So yeah. Theo, bravo.
Yeah, and this character not only, like you said, Brittany, he has Magneto held captive, which we were led to believe Magneto is dead. Of course, none of us truly believe that. Gambit, on the other hand, I think he actually is dead. But back to Magneto, he's held captive by Bastion, and not only does he have Magneto, but he knows that Charles Xavier is alive in space. So, Frank, we usually say this for the end, but I want to get your take on what do you think is what do you think happens with the story with Bastion now being the revealed main villain?
Um, what I think is going to happen moving forward with Bastion?
Yeah, just going forward because, like, he was introduced in this episode. Although the showrunner Bo DeMeo on Twitter last week, he said that like actually, if you go back and watch every episode but one, there are references or slight like cameos by Bastion in every episode, which I watched like a cut up video where it showed those clips, and I was like, I never would have caught this stuff, unless you didn't show me. But so he's been in the season in every episode but one. But this was the first time we actually get to see him. And I don't think did we see his full face? I don't think they showed his full face.
The only reference I remember is the Forge Storm episode where they showed the pictures of Forge. Right. And Bastion standing right next to Forge
Exactly.
in the picture. That's the only reference I remember seeing. But I need to go back and watch the other episodes. But moving forward, man, like I think he's working with Apocalypse because they are in the future. Like Apocalypse, like Bastion, is a time traveler as well. He goes in and out of different time points to try to gain knowledge and tech and like Apocalypse Bastion is he is essentially a cyborg who foresees everything because he's been everywhere in different parts of time. So the tech that he's using in present day is tech from the future. People don't know this too, but like Cable, he has the technogenetic virus that Cable has as well. And he's constantly upgrading himself too. So he's going to be a major player moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah, it certainly seems like that. I'm really curious because I knew nothing about this character before this episode. However, I did learn one thing is he's a big fan of the 1958 song, "The Purple People Eater." Brittany, do you have any kind of relationship with that song at all?
I only know of that song because of my parents, because that's the kind of era that they grew up in, and what have you. And yeah, I'm familiar with that song, and it's kind of appropriate because it seems that Bastion is slightly purple pink. I don't know, kind of. He's got like a peculiar hue to his.
He wears purple too,
He
also.
wears purple, yeah.
Yeah.
So like that was interesting as well. And really, I have no idea whatsoever the direction that this story is headed. But Frank's pretty on point with a lot of what's happened thus far. So to say that Bastion is kind of like the one who's overseeing Mr. Sinister, because I was anticipating seeing Apocalypse like right there and then, right? And I'm kind of familiar with Apocalypse, but I have no knowledge whatsoever for Bastion. Fake fan over here, y'all. If you know, you know. But anyway, yeah, I'm learning, y'all. I'm learning. I'm enjoying it, but peculiar song choice, yeah, and especially as he was again taunting and uh, uh, sort of, I guess, trying to frighten Magneto, which almost seems impossible to do because of just how powerful Magneto is. But when one is bound and uh, restrained in the manner that he is, and
The
Bas-
collar, he has the collar on.
the collar, right? He
Yeah.
he literally cannot use his powers, and Bastion has the blade, or like I guess the
Metal
traditional sort of
razor, yeah.
metal razor, like Sweeney Todd over here, and he's just slowly like trying to shave off the facial hair. I was like, "Oh my god, this is wild."
And
Truly
you
wild.
gotta think about it, he's using a metal razor on purpose because
I
he knows
know.
that otherwise, Magneto could control that, make him cut off his own hand or something, but
Exactly.
with the collar on, so it's like this guy's truly an evil character, and he's, wielding his power over Magneto, and I assume we're gonna see something similar with Professor X
Yeah.
in the next few episodes,
Yeah.
given, the power this guy wields, and what I've heard about these final 3 episodes is they're pretty, like, it is kind of a Game of Thrones, like, who's gonna die, who's gonna live, and, you know, who advances to season 2, so,
Mhm.
a lot to look forward to in that respect. Let's start from the beginning of the episode, however. We open with Gambit's funeral, very sad scene. We see, members of Gambit's family and the Thieves Guild are there. Uh, you know, the X-Men are there, of course. Cyclops and Beast are carrying the casket. Nightcrawler is he's the officiator or whatever you want to say about the funeral.
The
And
minister?
the minister, there we go. I was trying to think of something else, but yeah. And
Officiant?
Frank, I want to get your thoughts. What the Easter egg characters that you saw in the funeral, do you remember? Did anybody jump out at you like you're like, oh, cool, that person's here?
Yeah, I noticed Belladonna, who was that's the woman that was Gambit's ex.
Okay.
She was the queen of the Thieves Guild. That was an episode of the OG series where she's trying to get Gambit back, and Rogue fights to keep Gambit out of the Thieves Guild. The guy to the left of her was Robert LeBeau. That's Gambit's younger brother, his baby brother. He's a troublemaker out of the Thieves Guild. He's always getting in trouble with Gambit. Gambit essentially joined the Thieves Guild to protect Robert. And the guy right of Belladonna was Pierre, who's like it's kind of like the mention, like the OG of the Thieves Guild. So it was cool seeing them come back, and yeah, that was a good callback from season. I think that was season 3. I think when we saw Thieves Guild. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was an episode where they said thieves or the tithe or whatever. They said that over and over and over in the episode, which is you just kinda gotta go back and watch that to fully understand it. But yeah, shout out to the chat. Amber is joining us. Long time no see from Amber, so good to see you. Glad you're joining us. Hopefully, we'll have you back on a pod very soon, and let us know if you're watching X-Men 97, your thoughts on this season so far. we'd appreciate it.
Also,
Brittany, go ahead, Brittany.
while we're talking shout outs in the chat, quick shout out to King B Johnson,
course.
who's joining us here today as well. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your comments and just your overall support. So, yes, Justin, you were going to ask me a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the funeral because Jubilee's there. She's very upset.
Oh, yeah.
However, Rogue is not there, which we'll get to Rogue here in a little bit. But I do like Jubilee, who's like, very emotional. She's like, how could she not be here? You know, Gambit saved us. He saved her. He loved her.
Yeah.
And then Wolverine's like, grief is a lonely war. Rogue's got to figure it out on her own. What did you think about the funeral overall, but then Jubilee being the character who points it out to the audience that, hey, Rogue's not here, because we're all looking for Rogue. At least I was during that funeral.
Starting off with the funeral scene for this episode, like what you mentioned at the top of the show, this was the continuation that I really wanted after episode 5, right? And to Tristan's point, when he joined us for episode 6, there is a necessity for a breather, right? Because you're just like going, full speed, and then you need to pump the brakes a little bit to kind of just like mellow out, process what was happening. But I was glad that we, of course, did get a follow-up to what happened with the events in episode 5. So starting off with the funeral for Gambit was very sad. It kind of gave me like Fast and Furious vibes, like when everyone's gathered for Han's funeral, right? I can't believe I actually made a reference to Fast and the Furious.
Justice for Han. Like it's time like these universes need to collide. Honestly, if Universal would just pony up and buy the X-Men, they could have done it years ago.
Oh,
go ahead.
God. There you go. I digress. Yeah, it gave me that sort of setting, right, where the team is there, and it's like, I don't want to go to any more funeral kind of thing. It's like, yeah, well, we're gonna go to one more. Okay. That's what it kind of gave me. It gave me that vibe. But for Jubilee to outright say, where's Rogue? Like, she's not here, and Gambit saved everybody. He loved her. Why is she not here? And to Wolverine's point, grief is very lonely for a lot of people, and everyone processes their grief differently. It's not a one size fits all. And for Jubilee to feel the way that she feels is perfectly acceptable. It's perfectly valid. Logan to say what he said is perfectly reasonable, perfectly valid. And for Rogue, to her point, to behave the way that she's behaving this episode, I think is also equally understandable. I won't necessarily say acceptable, because we're kind of on a destructive path and we don't want to necessarily go down that rabbit hole. However, because she felt how she felt towards Gambit, and I think for her, knowing that he died, believing that she didn't choose him, is just obviously eating away at her. And not only that, she also lost Magneto in her mind. She lost Magneto. So she hasn't given herself that time and that grace to like process everything that's going on. She's just like on autopilot and doing the things that she feels that she can control within herself. But I understand. I understand wholeheartedly. I probably would react in the same manner as Rogue.
Yeah, and this funeral thing once again kind of makes me think about back in that time period of comics, much how when Gambit died in episode 5, and I told you, I said it reminded me very much when Rogue is holding him in that city. It reminded me of the death of Superman, which happened around the same time. Well, after Superman's death, they had a famous comic book, Funeral for a Friend is what it's called. And this reminded me of that too. So it's like, I kind of like how they're like, even though the show feels modern to our times, I do like how it also feels like of that time period also, with the callbacks that are, I think that are kind of, reminiscent of some other big thing in comics. And speaking of Superman, the very next scene we see Rogue and she's flying. She looks like Superman. She's she's really putting those Captain Marvel powers to good use, right? Because like she's on a mission.
Yeah, and it's cool because even in OG series, you really don't see Rogue at max power. And right. I think this show did a great job of showcasing her grief and not knowing how to channel it and not knowing where to put it. Like, dude, she's killing people. She's like destroying property. Like she's threatening government officials. She's and like you said, Justin, like having that guilt of like feeling that the love of your life doesn't think that you picked him. She doesn't know what to do with that pain.
Mhm.
So she's destroying a top A government security facility with Wilbur Ross, who shows up in this episode too. So I love how they showed the rage and like how they showed the emotions of what she's going through right now.
Yeah, I love this part of the episode, especially because we get all the other Marvel cameos and tie-ins and mentions. Like you said, Frank, she goes to this desert facility, top secret U.S. facility. She lands, and Thunderbolt Ross is there. And I love how he says, like, one of the guys is like, "Oh, she's outside. We're worried about her coming in." He's like, "This facility is built to hold the Hulk. Like it can manage." But then, of course, she busts through, and like she's gonna find out. She wants to know where Gyrick and Trask are. That's what she's looking for.
Mhm.
And she looks pretty badass. And Brittany, what are your thoughts on just Thunderbolt Ross, the Hulk reference, and seeing Rogue channel her pain into trying to find who killed Gambit?
Listen, do not fuck with a woman ever. Just period. Ever. Don't fuck with a woman. Okay. And the very fact that she kind of handed their asses to them, especially after that quip of this facility is to withstand the Hulk. And it's like, yeah, but can it withstand her? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's they're not of the same. They're not from the same pool, when you know what I mean? So I think it was really incredible to see that, and this is where we start seeing like the whole, for me at least, because I have very little recollection of the original series, seeing these crossovers with other Marvel characters, right? And so I was very surprised to see Thunderbolt Ross. I'm assuming this is not William Hurt's voice prior
No.
prior to his passing. Okay, this is someone else who sounds very, very similar, very convincing. I really thought it was William Hurt. I'm like, oh, if he like actually did the voice prior to his passing, like kudos to him. But yeah, that was cool. And this wasn't the last Marvel character that we would get to see in this episode, because I was floored when when we saw this other character.
Yeah, let's talk about Captain America. Captain America, we see Rogue. She lands in this snowy forest, and we see Cap's motorcycle. Then we see the shield come flying in. The shield looks great, by the way. Did y'all notice there's scratches on the shield? So
Yes.
it kind of makes you wonder, did he have a fight with Wolverine or maybe Black Panther? Like that would be kind of cool if we get Black Panther somewhere in the series.
Ooh.
Frank, the inclusion of Captain America is awesome for a number of reasons, but in the OG series, in the season 5, the final season, there was a episode dedicated solely to Captain America and Wolverine, based in the 1940s. I think it's called Old Soldiers. It's a really good storyline, and I'm glad that we got Cap back. What are your thoughts on having Captain America on this show?
It makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, the UN and the government is pretty much pulling our ties away from Genosha, and with the attack on Genosha, and with the government kind of like on the fritz right now, it will make sense that Captain America, who is pro-America, he's pro-government, he's pro by the book, and he's in this version of Captain America, he's more of a soldier, yes sir, no sir. He's more obedient to the government. He has like this guy optimism of like the government's gonna figure it out. They're right. We're gonna work together. As in the MCU version, Captain America kind of saw the dark side of the government, like things that were hiding, hide the infusion of Hydra, and he became more of a radical, I guess, towards the government, as opposed to this version of Captain America, who is also pro-government. So I wasn't cameo for sure, but to see him in this episode was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Chris Evans version of the MCU is very different because he has the quote in Civil War, we're not perfect, but the safest hands are still our own. So Captain America you're right. He's more of a rebel in the MCU than this version of the character, but still great to see Captain America. And I like how Rogue calls Cap America's top cop, and then we find out that like Rogue, Cap is looking for Gyrick and Trask. He has tracked Gyrick to Mexico City, but like Frank said, he's waiting for the approval before trying to apprehend him. And then Cap has the quote of, this uniform shows up in Mexico bashing heads in with you. It sends a message. And she says, damn right that you stand with mutants unless you don't. And he says, I got to do this, Rogue, by the book. Right now, my hands are tied. And then Brittany, what she does next was pretty surprising. She says, well, if your hands are tied, you won't be needing this. She takes the shield and tosses it into the snowy mountains. What was your reaction to that?
I was like, oh, damn. Like, okay. Like, I don't know. There's very few people who we've seen in the MCU who have somehow gotten their hands on Cap's shield and have, tossed it. Of course, in Falcon and Winter Soldier, we see Sam Wilson train with it and try to, launch it around like that, like Cap would. But for her to just straight up pick it up, fly it out of range, and then chuck it into the mountain range, girl, my God, it's not a frisbee, it's not coming back. But it was amazing. It really was truly amazing. And I just was not expecting to see that, but it was just clever, incredibly clever. And of course, y'all, I shared with y'all in our group chat of Sam Wilson looking at old Cap from the end of Endgame and says, you want to tell me about her? And then the next cutaway is the series of Rogue with the shield tossing it into the mountain range, and then old Cap saying, "No, I don't think I will."
Yeah, great. I mean,
perfect.
Does Rogue know that Tony Stark's dad made that shield for Cap?
Probably not, but I do have a theory. I think that launch of that shit was calculated. I think she did that because she didn't want Cap getting in the way. So throwing that shit 80 miles west was a way of like getting Cap out of the way so she can go find Gyrick and not have any type of government interference by America's top cop.
That's fair.
That's a good theory. That's a really good theory. Yeah.
I like that. Real quick, y'all, joining us in the chat is our brother from the North, Drew, who's giving a shout out to all of us, including Cartel Frank.
What's up, bro?
That's fantastic.
So from Captain America to the president, we see Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, talking to the president on I don't know what you want to call it, like a 3D image version of the president. And a couple interesting nuggets are in this conversation. First of all, they mention, or Cyclops asks the president, "Hey, did anybody find the body of Val Cooper, the doctor? She's been missing from the attack." You wonder about that character because she was so crucial in so many big scenes in this season that, is she another character? Are we going to see her again? Like, they didn't say that for nothing because this show, these are tight, like 30-minute episodes that are packed full of stuff. And much like The Boys, and like I've said this about Game of Thrones in the past, like there's no fat on the bone. Like this is all very important information. So I'm just saying, like, maybe we don't know who she is. And Frank, I'll ask you, do you have any, like, is Val Cooper a creation for the show, or do you know her from the comics?
No, I never seen her before.
Okay.
I thought she was Mystique for a second. I thought she was like an undercover person for Magneto. Yeah. But I don't know, man. Like, it's weird because, like, if she is like an undercover person for Magneto and for the Brotherhood of Mutants, she's acting very, very well because she was legitimately scared in episode 2 when Magneto had everybody up in the sky about to make them fall. And so I don't know exactly who she is. I don't recall her from the comic books, but I thought she was working for Magneto. Kind of like the ears on the ground to see what the humans are up to and to report back to Magneto. But this is me just taking a stab in the dark.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is let's just like tuck that away for another time because I bet she comes back up in the final 3 episodes because they wouldn't mention her if there was no reason. But I do like how this conversation kind of ends with Scott's trying to get the president to rally to the mutant side. But the president says, if voters see me helping your kind, he's like, it's just unfortunate optics. And of course, Cyclops of all people, he's like, optics. Of course, he has an optical condition. Brittany, what are your thoughts on that kind of cheap shot at Cyclops?
I think it's a cheap shot that you're coming to the girl with optic issues, asking that question.
I have
Hell,
contacts also, so
no one knew that by looking at you, but clearly with me, I have glasses. I am visually impaired.
it
Jesus,
was your turn to speak. It was
rude. Hey,
the flip of a coin. No, but I did like I feel like we're like getting like close to like Cyclops just like losing it and just killing people. I mean, there's a part in this episode later on where he's like using his heat vision or his optic blast, and he's like, "Stay down." And it reminded me of Superman fighting Batman in Batman v Superman, like that kind of level of aggression. Frank, what do you think about the Cyclops? The dig that the president gets in on Cyclops.
I thought it was petty. I thought it was petty. I mean, it maybe I've been sleeping under a rock. When did Kelly become president in the OG series?
I don't think he did. I think
he was senator, right?
He was a senator. Yeah, in the series, he was originally against the mutants. Then he was on their side, and then the character was also in the first movie, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
X-Men 2000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember if he became president in the OG series or not. I don't think he did. But I don't know, honestly. We'll have to look that up. But
yeah, I mean it's kind of petty by him because like the X-Men saved his life. Like he was about to be assassinated by Mystique, Gambit doppelganger, aka Mystique, and they saved his life. Like you would think that he would be grateful. And he did some good things. Like he helped the government, establish Genosha as a nation, recognized as a nation, all of that. But to like kind of like just move back because in fear of like pissing off his campaign trail and his voters, I think it's kind of fucked up. But I mean, again, with politics, man, it's all about self-interest. It doesn't matter how much one side helps you or who comes to save you. It's always about the next campaign, the next term. What can I do to serve myself by getting people to vote for me? And that was a great scene because like it really showcased Cyclops' frustration. Like, motherfucker, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Xavier, who pretty much educated you on the importance of mutants and us being like treated as equals, not just being tolerated, right? Yeah. So I thought that was a powerful scene, and I have a feeling Kelly's gonna regret that decision as well.
Yeah, I think so. Brittany, moving on with the storyline, what'd you think about when Jubilee convinced Roberto, aka Sunspot, to, hey, why don't you tell your mom, because like we could have died in Genosha and she would have found out you're a mutant from the news. What'd you think about that scene and how it actually played out?
That is very similar to what we saw with Cyclops and President, right? It's yes, people want to be supportive, and yes, people want to show basically like it's redundant, but show the support. Like, oh, I already knew about this. Like in regards to Roberto's mother, like she knew, she had a feeling, because of all the incidences that happened with like previous homes and burns and the things of that nature. And she's like, we love you. We still accept you for who you are. We just can't tell anyone about you because stakeholders, because it's going to basically ruin us. And it's so jarring because, most people are going to turn to their families to get them through the hard times, right? He was already fearful of what his mother would think when finding out that he's a mutant, and when in fact she always knew, mother's intuition, right? But to basically say to him, you can never reveal who you really are because of what it's going to do to the family, is really no different than the president not throwing his support behind the X-Men and their efforts, right? So it speaks on so many volumes for people who identify one way or another, and how society as a whole doesn't generally support those who are different, right? And so, when it hits on those topics and things of social issues of it's very hard. It's really, really hard. And I think that's what makes this writing so beautiful, because in one way or another, we can all identify to a character's story.
I think that scene played out pretty realistically too, because it's
Yeah.
like the mom was like, it's like we got like the good and the bad. We got like the mom was like, oh, it's very supportive. Like we knew you were a mutant for a long time. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, she's like, but we got to keep it a secret because
Mhm.
of money. So
Yeah.
I did,
Yeah.
I did like how there was like give and take to it. It wasn't just like a sugary sweet moment. It was, hey, we accept you. We're fine with it. We're cool with it. Just don't tell anybody. So,
Mhm.
interesting kind of the way the reality of the show kind of continues to permeate throughout. But
It's almost like her love was conditional in that
Yeah.
scene. Like
yeah,
100%.
that was tough to watch, because like this is your son, right? Like he's pleading to you. He finally gets his weight lifted off his shoulders to let you know what he is, and because of what's going on in the world, and really for your safety as well, and not like Julie said, find on the 5 o'clock news that your son's a mutant and something tragically happened. But it's like, yeah, we love you, but we love the money more. Like, bitch, you billionaires. Y'all could leave the game today and be straight. Like, what do you
Mhm.
worry about your son being a mutant affecting your bottom line? Like,
Yeah.
you're not strapped for cash.
yeah, because as we see later on in Madripoor, what a cool location for them to visit. We see
Mhm.
DaCosta, that's her last name. We see DaCosta a building. We see a
Yeah.
Stark Industries billboard. We see a
Yep.
Hammer Industries building. We see a Roxxon. So all these like Marvel, some of them MCU, things that we came to love in the MCU are popping up in here. I thought those Easter eggs are pretty cool.
Well, and Madripoor was the setting for Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Right.
with the power broker. So that was kind of cool too.
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very cool stuff.
Mhm.
Before we get to Madripoor, let's go back to Genosha. The team is trying to help find any survivors in the rubble, and Jean has a feeling that there's a telepath out there. And of course, like Scott is like, oh, it's Madeline. That's his his baby mama is
What a
Madeline.
dick.
Yeah, and lo and behold, we find it's Emma Frost in a diamond form,
Mhm.
and we see her in that form. Frank, I want to get your expertise. Is this something that Emma Frost, the White Queen, can do?
Yeah, so pretty much when she goes in the diamond form, she's virtually indestructible. Like you can't fuck with her. Like you can't destroy her. Now, I don't know about in the show version, but in the comic books, when she's in diamond form, she can't use her telepathy and telekinesis. Like it's pretty much null and void. The diamond form is pretty much just a armored shell to protect her from from damage. But the fact that Jean was even able to like connect with her while she's in diamond form kind of tells me that she in the show version she can use her telepathy even in diamond form, which will be a different avenue than had it how it is in the comic books.
Mhm. Brittany, what'd you think about Scott's reaction to seeing uh, that it was Emma Frost and not Madeline?
I mean, I get it. One is always going to be hopeful that their loved ones are the survivor, right? And because he hears the key words of someone who's telepathic and alive, I mean, yeah, it made total sense. But it's like, how jerky of you. I mean, in front of the real Jean Grey, and I know there's still blurred lines. They're not sure at what point they were switched, and they're still trying to figure things out. And kudos to Jean for still like being supportive to a degree, but it seems like a lot of these people who are in need of support are also just getting like they're getting screwed really badly. There's a constant theme of someone or group of people being screwed. But yeah, it was I couldn't put up with that. I honestly couldn't. It's like, all
I
right,
mean, but we have to remember he had a baby with her.
I
You know what
get
I'm saying?
it.
Like, there's a level of emotion.
Mhm.
Like, he didn't cheat on her. Like, the whole time they were together, he thought that was Jean Grey. And then,
No,
then
I
like
get
to
it.
wake up one morning and feel and find out that a rival villain not only kidnapped your wife or your the love of your life, but cloned her and
Hmm.
then like you have a baby by her, and then the baby that you had is now taken away.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of emotions to go through while being an X-Men, while trying to protect humanity that fucking hates you. That's not something that you can just walk through the park with like with no with no with no safety. That's emotionally jarring. He's going through a lot. Like, that's not something that you can just get over with in one fair swoop.
He also abandoned his son so he can fuck off and die.
Yeah. Did he abandon his son, or did he try to find a way to save his son?
Yeah.
What was he gonna do?
Well, he sent his son to the future with Cable,
He said,
or
No,
with,
no,
yeah,
with,
no,
with
no, no,
Vision.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry,
no, no.
Vision.
He
Yeah.
could have done that. He could have done that without the dramatics of "Don't you know what it feels like to be abandoned?" and then like walk away.
he's an orphan. What you mean?
He has problems.
His mother
I
and dad,
understand.
died in the plane crash, and his brother and him are only sole survivors. So dealing with that, like, that doesn't go away. Like, he's still dealing with that too, of losing his parents, in a plane crash, and being only survivors, him and his brother. That's like, come on, man. Like, we got cut Scott some slack here. Like, that's not something that you can just walk through like armor and be okay.
Luna disagrees. I don't know if you could hear her barking in the background. She said, "Fuck that guy." So, no, I'm just kidding. I get it. I get it. He's got trauma. They all have fucking trauma, okay? But it's like, it's maybe because of my own personal like relationships and things I've encountered throughout my time here on this earth. It's maybe that's what's also getting in the way of things. Like, I can't be neutral. I can't. And that's really difficult for me. I'm self-aware about that. But it's everyone's got some sort of trauma. Obviously, the X-Men are not short of having their own sort of trauma. And I understand that glimmer of hope, right? That just kind of dangles there and shines bright like a diamond. There we go. I understand. This is also why I don't set myself up for disappointment. So that's just me.
Well, and speaking with dealing with trauma, we get Nightcrawler, and he's in Mexico with Rogue, and he's trying to help her get over the loss of Gambit and Magneto. Well, maybe not get over, but trying to help her console her with the loss of Gambit and Magneto. Then the rest of the team shows up, and they're on their way to Madripoor because they're looking for Trask. Frank, is there anything about this that you want to talk about before you get out of here?
Yeah, I guess just kind of like just reestablishing the relationship of the sibling love between Nightcrawler and Rogue. I mean, I know they're step siblings, but Nightcrawler sees her as family, and vice versa as well. So I think it pains Nightcrawler to like see his sister go through this. I think having Nightcrawler in this episode, in this series so far, is kind of like the glue to tie all the emotional ties together with all the X-Men, what they're going through. He's an OG advisor, man. Like, he's a guy who is strong, indoctrinated in his faith, and I think the X-Men need that right now. And you saw it in the opening scene with Gambit's funeral. Like, I love the symbolism that he used with the card game that Gambit used in his life. Like, never really feeling like he was good enough or pure enough to be a hero. And but Nightcrawler always saw the good in people, and even with Rogue, how they met, he saw the good in her too. And I think the X-Men need that right now, some positivity, while they live in a world that just doesn't accept them.
Yeah,
Couldn't have
no,
said
no,
it
well
better.
said. Very well said. Yeah, and you're right. The card analogy stuff in Gambit's for the funeral for Gambit was great.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think being for Nightcrawler to be there for Rogue and to walk her through that grief process is absolutely crucial for her to be able to continue, however however destructive it may be. but for her to just kind of let that release and just, cry and cry and cry. I mean, that's so necessary. And as someone who bottles things up and doesn't want to deal with life at times, that doesn't always work out in everyone's best interests. So kudos to Nightcrawler for being there for Rogue.
Speaking of bottling things up, we get the Diet Pingo, which is the same soda that's featured in the Incredible Hulk movie that Hulk bleeds into that Stan Lee eventually drinks. So I like all these like MCU quasi tie-ins to the episode. I know, Frank, you got to get out of here because you've got some other stuff to do. Is there anything you want to say as we get out of here? Is there like something we haven't talked about you want to mention before you leave?
No, I mean, I love, like I said, I love the episode. I think it's going to send some breadcrumbs for. I still think for an apocalypse introduction. One thing I do want to talk about before I leave is I don't know if y'all get to it, but there's a scene where it shows Bastion's lair and there's a bunch of screens, right? And it looks like Bastion is plugged up to these screens. Like he's like ciphering information. It's like he sees what's going on around him out of space. And like you see like a clip of Leandra in that scene. And it's like, I forgot what he says, but like it kind of leads to like him setting things up. And it looks like he's going to set up the X-Men. He knows Xavier's alive now. And not that the X-Men really lied about his death, because it did seem like it was impending doom that he was going to wake up from that coma. But I feel like Bastion's going to use that as public sentiment towards the public that, hey, we can't trust the X-Men. They lied about Xavier. He's been lying this whole time. If they're lying about this, what else are they going to be lying about? And I think Bastion's going to use that as a way to properly like dissociate the X-Men from society and make them even more of a public enemy number one.
Ooh, I love that theory.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that play out. So thanks for joining us, Frank. We appreciate it. Great stuff as always. We will see you on next week's episode.
Let's get it, man.
Yep. See you.
Later, Frank. Yeah.
No,
yeah, that was that's a great theory. And, I tend to believe Frank in the things that he says, especially about this show, not only because he's so well versed in the comics, but it just makes sense, right? How they're piecing everything together. So I would be very interested to see how a villain such as Bastion would alter words and alter minds and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, from the little that I know about the character of Bastion, from what I've kind of read and seen in different other podcasts or shows, is he is such a super villain that like he wants to destroy he wants to like build up the X-Men to destroy them. Like he wants to turn humans against them, or even to help mutants in a certain way to eventually be the one to ultimately be their undoing. So whether that leads to a mutant human war or whatever, he's definitely up to no good when it comes to the mutants, as we can tell. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the final 3 episodes of this season.
Like I said, psychotic.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Bastion, the next thing we're going to talk about is the first time we hear the Purple People Eater song is while he's killing Henry Gyrick, who, Gyrick was working for him, I guess, through Sinister and through Trask.
Yeah.
Gyrick no more.
No, because I mean he had already gotten a beating from Rogue, right, when she came to pay him a little visit, and apparently he's quite the etymologist. I think that's the term, with the butterflies and the instincts. Listen, tomorrow it's gonna be May, and I've got instinct on the brain. Insects, Jesus, you knew I had to fit that in there somehow, Justin.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew it's gonna be May was gonna be said or posted at some point, some form or fashion. Yeah,
for sure. But she comes in, wails on the guy, right? And so when we see him in the bed, he's got like the oxygen mask on, and then you see this character enter the room, puts on the radio, alters it to the song that we hear, and just smothers him, right? Just completely smothers him till he's no more, and walks out like nothing.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Trask, he wants to meet with the X-Men. He wants to meet with them in Madripoor. And the only clue, like I said a little bit ago, was the fact that, he said like the diet is never, you know, the diet's never out or something like that. So
Mhm.
Morph is the one who goes to the vending machine, gets the diet Pingo drink, and by doing that, opens up this secret layer, which leads the X-Men to Trask. But I
Mhm.
love the quick shot of all the X-Men, like, in the elevator, they're going down to see Trask. That was such a great shot of all them, like, in this crowded elevator, which also kinda reminds me of we talked about Endgame last week, of
Mhm.
the scene where Hulk is excluded from the he's told to take the stairs, and he's like, "Hulk hates stairs," like, it
And
kinda
Loki's over here like,
right.
"Bye."
Yeah, it kinda reminded me of that, but I thought it was a great
Yeah.
shot to see all those characters squeezed in, and you've got Morph, like, you know, slurping up the diet drink, the diet
Mhm.
Pingo. What do you think
Yeah.
Pingo tastes like, Brittany?
I honestly don't know if I wanna know.
Yeah.
The name is a bit off-putting, so
It
I
looks
think
like Mountain Dew kinda, maybe?
do you think it would be like a pink Mountain Dew or
Well,
something? I
no,
don't
but it's in a
know.
it's in a green bottle, right?
I don't
And
know. Pink goes with green, I don't know.
maybe it's like Sprite? I don't know.
I don't know. Honestly, I genuinely don't know, and I don't think I'd wanna
Yeah.
try it.
Well, because the diet drinks are the worst, right?
Diet
Like,
drinks are yucky.
yeah. Now maybe it was like Pingo Zero Sugar, right? Maybe that's something that would be more up your
Well,
alley.
I can get by with that, like, I have Coke Zero, like, all the time, and I'm okay with it, but
Yeah,
diet's nasty.
yeah, no doubt about that. Unless we're gonna be sponsored by Diet Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper or Diet Pepsi, then we love it. We will drink it. Oh, there we go. That is actually
Instead,
Coca-Cola, yeah.
Coca-Cola, sponsor us.
There you go. That would I would love that. That would be amazing.
Hell yeah.
Um, moving on with the storyline, we see Trask and he is about to kill himself. And I like how Morph is like, he's like, poor man's Oppenheimer over there. And then Trask like follows up and he's like, I made the Sentinels to protect normal people. Now I am become death, which is obviously if you saw Oppenheimer over the summer or
Yep.
recently or whenever you saw Oppenheimer,
Mhm.
that's one of his famous kind of quotes. Brittany, what did you think about the Oppenheimer stuff in this episode?
The Oppenheimer line just killed me. I was just like, "Wow, really? We went there." Yeah, Trask is in rough shape, and obviously everything's come back to bite him in the ass, right? Rogue obviously has needs to have a word with him and doesn't give a shit as to what may happen to him, whether, he launches off the ledge himself or she throws him off the ledge. She just wants him dead, right?
Yeah.
Because of what he took from her. And even though the X-Men are kind of trying to talk her down from it, right? She's just had it. She's definitely at her breaking point and understandably so. I'm not saying it's right or anything, but I get it. I get it. So with her basically dropping him from the roof of the building and him dramatically falling,
In
it's
slow
not the
motion.
end of him.
Yeah.
It's not the end of him. I was not expecting what happened next, like at all. Did you?
No, no, because when you think that he's dead and, like I said, he falls in slow motion, you get this, like, great shot of Rogue, and she's at the top of this building, and, it's raining, and, it's like almost like Dark Rogue or something, like she's, like,
Rogue went
embraced
rogue.
yeah, said it again, still applies,
Yeah.
and then, as he drops her, Morph is like, "Is this what we are now?" And
Yeah.
and why'd she do that? And then,
Mhm.
Wolverine's like, well, that's what he deserved. And, like,
Mhm.
they're definitely out for their own form of justice. And then he
Yep.
hits the ground and Trask is not dead. Well, maybe he's dead, but now he's some kind of like
Zombie
human, yeah, human
Sentinel.
sentinel thing,
Sentinel.
like a hybrid between the two. His head spins around like he's a zombie. Yeah.
It's disturbing.
And now he's like this overpowered villain that they have to take out.
Man,
Um,
man, that was rough. That was rough watching that because
yeah.
for me to see like an animation that is able to make you cringe in one way or another. I mean, they're doing an excellent job, of course, with like storytelling, the 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 bars that are being dropped by these characters, right? You know, Magneto's has had some amazing lines in
Oh
this
yeah.
series, but to convey and make the audience feel like a certain way is like that's just on another level. So like kudos to everyone who's been a part of this series. I'm seeing that head twist, and this is why I don't like horror movies, y'all. Like I don't like seeing unnatural stuff like that, right? It creeps me out. But to see the level of power that zombie sentinel Trask possesses is concerning because he is like neutralizing mutant after mutant after mutant.
Yeah.
And you would think they would be able to overpower him. You would think the Jean Grey, Dark
Right.
Phoenix herself, would be able to overpower him, and she couldn't. That's concerning.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you said, like this human sentinel hybrid version of Trask, he's fighting off the X-Men. I love how Morph turned into Quicksilver for a little bit there
Oh,
and
yeah.
used the speed and stuff. But then, like
That
you
was cool.
said, Trask takes him out
Mm-hmm.
and kind of one by one gets down to Cyclops. And then he, pie faces Cyclops down to the ground. And he
Yep.
tells him, he's like, tell me, orphan, how does it feel to be abandoned by the future? And just as it says that, you
Bitch.
see this grenade come out of nowhere. It's Cable, Nathan
Mhm.
Summers, Scott's son from the future, who makes the save. And and then of course Jean is the one who realizes that Cable is Nathan, and Nathan, of course, is the son of Scott and Madeline.
Yep.
And then Scott looks into Nathan's eyes, and then Cable's like, let's skip the reunion, Dad.
That was hilarious to me.
Yeah,
And then also like his little quip towards Jean, he's like, "You're not her." I'm like, like rude?
yeah,
Was that
exactly.
necessary?
Well, I mean, in this case, her being his mother. So, like,
Yeah.
I guess, obviously Madeline is a clone, but that's also his mother. So,
Yeah.
very, very strange stuff in this series. And then Cable explains that, Mr. Sinister's not working alone. He's working for someone else, someone worse, which leads us to the reveal of Bastion, which we talked about before.
Right.
Brittany, is there anything else from this episode that we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention?
If there's anything to take away from this episode, y'all, is do not piss off a grieving woman because you don't know the lengths she'll go to in order to either not deal or get to the bottom of
Mhm.
what it is that is tormenting her. Fair warning. Like
Yeah,
even the mightiest of Avengers or mutants, you're not gonna be able to take her out like that. You just can't. You really just can't. There's something that I think is primal that takes over, and all sense of reason is just completely lost. So yeah, I mean this was a great episode. It was really great. It was really awesome to see that see characters that we love so much from other universes. It's kind of like, okay, are we like in a not so much a multiverse kind of thing, but by bringing in, you know, Thunderbolt Ross and Captain America, like who else is next? Like who else are we potentially going
yeah,
to see in the 3 remaining episodes, which are basically a 3-parter finale. So I'm very
yeah,
curious at this point, and this show keeps me very much interested.
yeah. And you reference what's next, the three-part finale titled "Tolerance is Extinction." So parts
Mhm.
1, 2, and 3 we get in the final 3 episodes.
Oof.
You know, after episode 5, which of course is where we saw Gambit die, Bo DeMeo on social media said that, like, episode 5 is just a warm up for the final 3 episodes. So buckle up. It should be a bumpy ride to close out this first season of X-Men 97.
You said bumpy ride, and it made me think of the shrunken head from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban in the purple night bus. He's like, hang on, it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Which, by the
Sorry.
way, just to plug our show, we did talk about Harry Potter last year. We talked about every Harry Potter movie. So go back in our archives and check out that review. We did it.
For sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
not only did we do that, Justin, we did something quite monumental this week, or
did.
with the end of last week, for the Watchers in the Basement. We talked about how we just celebrated our 5th year being on this podcast, and we love it so much. Y'all, through the help of our wonderful followers and subscribers, we were able to reach our goal to 300 YouTube subscribers. So thank you all so very much for your love and support. It means the world to us. We love doing this more so than doing our actual real jobs. Hopefully one day we can make this into a full-time thing, but we do appreciate those who have shown their support from day one all the way to today. And so we just want to say thank you to everyone out there who has taken the time to listen to us ramble about nerdy things, and hopefully you all have enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for subscribing, thanks for listening, thanks for liking, thanks for commenting, all that stuff. We appreciate it all. Yeah, it's really great to kind of reach a milestone, and obviously we want to keep going. So, tell people about us, spread the word. We really, really appreciate it. And before we get out of here, I have one more news item just to talk about real quick. Late last week, in fact, on Friday, we found out that Sony has moved Kraven the Hunter from August 30th to December 13th. So Kraven is moving back once again. Kraven, of course, will star Aaron Taylor Johnson as the title character in the, Kraven is a a Spider-Man villain. I had Superman on the brain. Is a Spider-Man
wrong
villain.
franchise altogether. Good
Wrong.
Lord.
Yeah. Completely different franchise.
Very wrong.
But no, Kraven, of course, Spider-Man villain who is going to be, once again, I guess will be like an anti-hero kind of story, much like Venom and Morbius. Do you have any thoughts on this, Brittany, about how we're going to wait a little bit longer to see Kraven the Hunter?
I'm all for waiting as long as the end product is going to be good. I know that we here on the Watchers have discussed our feelings towards Deadpool when it got moved up a little bit further, or a little bit earlier, right? And I think the concern, and I think I can say this safely for all of us, Justin, is quality. You want quality over how fast we can get it, right? If we're going to lose that quality, then it's not going to be worth getting it any sooner. That being said, I also hope that the quality is going to be that much better because they are pushing it back another few months. So I'm still gonna go watch it. I know nothing about Kraven the Hunter. I think it's hilarious that we have Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is the lead, and he's also previously been an MCU character, and now it's just Sony Marvel, right? That he's taking part in. So I think that's just utterly hilarious in my personal opinion. But good for him staying part of the Marvel family, if you will. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he delivers.
Yeah, and this, just to kind of give you like the full story. Kraven the Hunter was supposed to come out in 2023. Obviously, because of the strikes, they pushed it to 2024. It was going to be in August, like I said, August 30th. The reason why they're pushing back December, well, the reason why they're given is the movie that they were going to air, or have that spot in December, is a Karate Kid remake, which apparently is being pushed back. So, or another Karate Kid movie. I don't know if it's a remake or reboot or whatever. Maybe it follows after the end of Cobra Kai. I'm not sure. But that movie is being pushed back. And so they're pushing back Kraven to a more favorable date. Who knows? That might mean that they're doing more reshoots and changing up stuff. They have time. They probably will. But I do think this movie was kind of done and kind of ready to go. So who knows? But they're pushing it back to where they think they can make more money, like in the Christmas season. So we shall see. We'll likely talk about that movie at some point toward the end of the year, maybe early next year. But
yeah,
look forward to that.
Depending on the release date, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, December 13th is what it's slated for now. We shall see. We still have 3 other superhero movies to come this year. Of course, in July, we have Deadpool and Wolverine, which everyone I think is looking forward to.
For sure.
Then early October, Joker Folie à Deux, which we talked about recently. I
Mhm.
can't wait for that one. I think you're in the same boat.
Oh, yeah, for
And
sure.
then later in October, there's Venom: The Last Dance, which that is actually the title, which
Hmm.
again, not sure how Michael Jordan and the Bulls what they have to do with the symbiote, but, I guess we'll
Oh,
find out
boy.
in October. And then finally, Craven wraps up the year of superhero films. So, the first, of course, Madam Web. I still haven't seen Madam Web. I'm waiting for the, rental price to go down before I rent it on Amazon. It's still, like, at $14.99, and that's just
Oh,
too
jeez.
too rich for my blood. I'll wait till it's, like, at 5 or 3 or 4 or whatever, but,
I'm good.
once 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 I see that movie, maybe a couple of us will see it. We might do something for it in the future. But anyway, that does it for the movie news for the week. Uh Brittany, now that everyone knows what we think about Craven the Hunter, but also of course X-Men 97 episode 7, we want to know what you think about it. And Brittany, how can people tell us what they think about our show and the shows we talked about?
I mean, just like what King B. Johnson, Amber, our good friend here from the podcast, and our brother from the North, Drew, who have joined us today. We also had someone else pop into our chat, Justin, Ultimate Studios. Appreciate you being here as
Yep,
well.
appreciate it.
At one point, while we were discussing X-Men 97, Ultimate Studios said, about to watch it right now. So, hey, happy
Check it
that we could convince you to do so. Be sure though to come back, let us know your thoughts about the episode, and also don't forget to subscribe if you already haven't. We just hit our goal of 300 subscribers. We're not stopping here, y'all. We still want more subscribers. We want to get to the masses. But yeah, also don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and turn on those notification bells to let you know the next time we will go live to discuss probably X-Men 97, but also X-Men. I mean, we're also looking to reviewing the series that starred Hugh Jackman and company. So yeah, that's going to be headed your way very, very soon. But also you can follow us on our social media pages. That's right. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Search for the Watchers in the Basement or at Watchers Basement. Also use that same hashtag Watchers Basement to not only help grow our audience, but to also tag us in your posts, memes, articles, things that you want us to check out. We'll add that to the ever-growing list. And also, we have audio podcasts for those who are maybe not into video podcasts. No worries. We've got you covered. Be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating as well.
Yep, that is right. Thank you, Brittany. And, also, coming up, as you said, tomorrow it's going to be May, right? May starts tomorrow. Well, then in June, there's a lot of stuff coming in June. June, we have season 4 of The Boys. We have
Oh, so
season
excited.
2 of House of the Dragon, which debuts on June 16th. So there's lots to talk about. We want to talk about some of the older X-Men movies also leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yep.
I think for sure we're going to review Deadpool and Deadpool 2 and
Oh,
possibly
absolutely.
Logan.
Oh, yes.
So we've got our dance cards full for the rest of the summer. So
I mean, and for those who are also into Anne Rice books, we're
Right.
coming back rather with Interview with the Vampire season 2. So join Amber, myself, and Frank, and hopefully Marcy. Hopefully Marcy has caught up on season 1. We're going to be coming at y'all next month for season 2 of Interview with the Vampire. So yeah, like Justin said, we've got our dance card completely full and then some. So we've definitely got content coming your way.
We do. So for tonight, that about does it though. Thanks to Brittany. Thanks for Frank. I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.